Welcome back and hello everyone. I am CD3 Daddy and you may not recognize this guy next to me, but this is C3DG Minecraft. He has a new skin and I will let him tell you a little bit about that.
That's right. I want to thank DFXP for making me this awesome skin. I can tell that he put a lot of effort into the skin. I think it looks way better than that weird green blob thing that I had before. So thank you so much, DFXP. The skin looks awesome.
Alrighty, thank you so much. He is one of our Discord members. Come join us on Discord and hang out with us. We have a lot of fun over there. Now this is part 8 of everything you need to know about Pickle Farm Series. When we set off to do Pickle Farms, we only had 7 episodes planned, actually 6, but then we started investing a ton of time into the duck pickle farm, and we are now here to present the Duck V4. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. All right, now before we begin building the farm, we are going to kind of go back to where we started, and that is the basics of pickle farming, because you need to understand why we designed the farm the way we did. Now, the most iconic in DonutSMP as far as pickle farms is the 3706 V3. The 3706 V3 is one of the first shifting floors that utilized the full redstone speed that is available in Donut. And the way it works is by shifting a floor back and forth to pop off pickles as they spread. Now, the shifting floor is comprised of 2 farms essentially in one. Every time we shift the floor, we move the coral back and forth, creating a different spawnable location. So the blue signifies one farm, the red signifies a second farm. The purple is all of the shared coral between the 2. A farm looks like this. This is why you see all pickle farms sharing this pattern, because pickles, when you bone meal them, they can spread a maximum distance of 2 blocks. Now this is called a taxi cab distance. You may have heard us say that in the past, and you may hear other people talk about that as well. A taxi cab distance is the distance that a taxi cab would drive, and a taxi cab would never drive diagonally across lanes. So if a pickle wanted to spread, oops, let me put that back. If a pickle wanted to spread to the green block, it would go 1 and 2, but it could never go 1 and 2, because the closest the red blocks are is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, even though they are seemingly only 2 blocks away. And that is the way the pickles spread. Anything in the blue and anything in the green. Red is off limits. But when you put 2 farms together, you can share that space and only pulse the bone meal dispenser on the pickle when the farm is in the correct position. The farm is comprised of 2 parts, like I said, and each time you shift the floor, you have a gap between the pistons. This will be a farm that has the maximum spread distance, and this would be a farm with the maximum spread distance. The unused coral simply shifts next to the piston and typically underneath a waterlogged leaf or a wall, but it's out of the way. So that is the basics, and we are going to jump over to the Duck V4 and tell you how we have compacted this even more. Alright, now this is the coral bed for the Duck V4, and this is actually 2 modules, and they will be built side by side, sharing a center wall, but this is a total of 8 farms. The reason I want to call this out is because when you are building it, you need to remember this pattern. It will help you in the long run. So if you need to pause for a moment or take a screenshot, you can do that now. But the farm is actually extremely easy to memorize because it is just a typical pickle farm. So we'll call this yellow farm, farm 1. Catty corner from it will be farm 2. And then catty corner from that will be farm 3. And catty corner from that will be farm 4. The second and third farm are separated by a center block, whereas the first and second and the third and fourth are kind of zipper tied together. But you'll notice that each farm's starting position have no overlapping coral. But the pink blocks can are part of the position 2 farm, so let's actually shift that over. So now everything that is pink is now in range of the other farms, and some of these are now out of range if you refer back to our earlier example. What's interesting about this design, even though we have shifted it down, this red coral no longer belongs to Farm 2, it actually belongs to Farm 4. So because we are interlacing the farms like this, we are actually sharing coral. We are going to be building a total of 32 farms, which is only 8 modules, but we are subtracting an entire stack of coral from a 3706 V3. And again, each Pickle Farm access 2 farms in one because we pulse on every single shift. Alright, now here is the build border. You are going to need a build area 23 long and 17 wide. And that is not a mistake. We are actually cramming 32 pickle farms in this small area. That is impossible with the previous farms, even the Duck V3. Now that we know the dimensions that we are going to be working with, let me give you a list of materials you will need. Now again, we are building 32. You can actually cut the material list in half if you only want to build 16 initially, or you can build 1 layer and only build 8. You are going to need a lot of materials. They do fit in 2 chests, so don't let that fool you. In our first double chest, we have a lot of glass. Now, the majority of the build can be any blocks. However, there are a few blocks that we will call out in the build that do need to be glass, but there are over 29 stacks of glass. 29 stacks plus 57 to be exact. You'll need 32 pickles. You need 72 leaves. Now, these are the ones that you need. We have an additional stack, the more the better, because we are going to be using them for water manipulation. You only need 2 water buckets. You can use more, but 2 is the minimum that you need to build the farm with. You need 8.5 stacks of coral. Now this can be any type of coral. The color does not matter. So those are your material lists in your first chest. In your second chest, this is where most of the redstone components are. You will need some solid blocks at minimum, a stack and 56 solid blocks. You will need 5 stacks and 34 fence gates. You will need 24 chests and 24 barrels if you build it exactly like ours. However, you can replace the barrels with chests. 2 trapdoors, 32 walls, 46 scaffolding. Now you do have to have scaffolding. That is not just for building. 24 note blocks. You will need 4 stacks and 40 observers, 2 stacks and 56 hoppers, 2 stacks and 16 pistons, a stack and 48 powered rails, 17 comparators, 5 repeaters, 46 pieces of redstone dust, and a lever. So, if you were keeping track, you would not even be able to build close to as many farms if you used the 3706 design, or even if you used the Duck V3.1. So our material list is extremely small considering we are about to build 32 farms. Alright, that was your material list. These are the dimensions, 17 by 23. We are going to walk up to any side, it doesn't matter which one, because we're going to do the same thing for all 4 corners. And that is on the length side, we are going to count forward 10 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to place a solid block of choice. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite end. Now, instead of counting over 10 from that corner, I'm going to just skip a block and place one down because, again, our dimensions are 23 across, so that is going to be our starting point. From there, I'm going to create a channel by connecting these 2 solid blocks together, and I'm going to be using glass for this. You can use whatever block you want up at this point. This doesn't matter. And then I'm going to switch to my trap doors. Between my 2 blocks, I'm going to place a trapdoor. It doesn't matter which side you put it on, as long as it opens down and it is level with the top of the block. We are going to do this on both sides. Now this is when our scaffolding does come into play. We are going to be placing some scaffolding on top of the brick. Now, let's pause for just a moment. Most pickle farms are built from the top down, in a sense, because the clock starts on the top and everything works its way down. I wanted to design a farm that could be turned on from the bottom. Not only could it be turned on from the bottom, but we can build one layer, turn it on, it run just fine, and then build a second layer whenever you're ready, instead of having to build it all at once to make sure it works. Because each layer is completely independent, it is connected directly to the top without having to tear anything off. So if you wanted to build this and try it out without building the whole thing, build a layer first, build a second layer, a third layer, a fourth layer, a fifth layer if you want. And this is how we are going to power them. We are going to place a scaffold on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which one. Look down at it and make sure that you place a second scaffold, which will then be on top of the trap door. You need to do this on both sides. Once you have done that, we are going to connect the two scaffolding sides with glass. We are just going to extend that channel all the way up, because this is going to be where part of the pickles collect, so we need to make sure that they don't fall off onto either side. Now, once you get to the scaffolding, connect the two sides. This is going to be the inner dimension, or inner area for our pickles to drop in. Also, when you're building this, make sure that you're not building directly next to bedrock, because if you needed to dig down to expand your water stream to get your storage into a different location, that does become challenging. So make sure you're a few blocks up. And that is it for our base. Now it's time to find the center points for all of our farms that will be used all the way up. The first one is very easy. We need to pick a side that is going to be our A side, or the front of the farm. This is going to be important because of the way the wiring works. If you do this in reverse, it will not work. So on the A side, I am going to count diagonally 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place down a block, or you could count 5 sideways and 5 forward. That works as well. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As we stated at the beginning, the two sides are mirror images of one another. Once we do that, we are going to count forward from our farm 1. We're going to count forward off the block 1, 2, turn 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 1 block and then 3 blocks in between. That is the easiest way I can think of doing that. The next one is going to be from the first farm again, 1, 2, 3, 4, turning, and then 1. The next one is actually identical to the first one. Starting at farm 3, we are going to have 2 blocks, turn, 3 blocks, and another farm. Again, this is exactly opposite or mirror imaged on the left side. And you'll notice that this is not going to be, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is not going to be the center of a farm. So this is not going to be something that you can do now and forget later, because what will end up happening is your farm will look like it's running, but it will not fire. So keep track of the A side and the B side. All right, well, we have our center location marked. It's time to put leaves on top of it. So add leaves to the top of all 4 blocks. Grab some water. I always have an infinite water source nearby when building a farm like this. Makes it easier, and because it's so big, you may have a couple, but go ahead and waterlog your leaves. Do the same thing on both sides. And we are going to add some coral on top of the leaves. Now we're going to just do the 1 coral block for now. All right, now that we have the base of our farm ready to go with our coral blocks, we are going to add our kind of perimeter to contain all the water as we are building out our coral. I just hate building and moving water, so we're going to take care of some of this right off the bat. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hop up onto my scaffolding, which will act like a ladder throughout the rest of this build. I'm going to place scaffolding right in the middle, and I'm going to do that on both sides. And this will actually be available during and after the entire farm is complete, so you'll be able to get up and down without having to purl constantly. I'm going to use the scaffold as a way to place my piston on my left module and on my right module. I'm going to carry this out a total of 9. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Starting off with my 1 block, I'm going to do, let me hop down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So your farm should look like this. Now, what I have found it the easiest way to move around at this point is I am going to extend my glass platform that's in the middle all the way down the side of my pistons, but when I get to the farm that is closest to the pistons, I'm going to skip a block because this will be coral, so I don't want to go ahead and get that in the way, and then extend it past 1 block, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, keeping in mind that it is mirrored, so when you get to this position where the column is closest to you, just skip it. You are going to do this on both sides, however, on this side there needs to be a gap. So I'm going to place a block here and diagonally in the corner, and following the same rules as the A side, but on the B side the gap is going to be right here at this column. So you can either place a temporary block or you can just build out this far for now, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to the A side of my farm, and I am going to grab some solid blocks, and I am going to place a piece of glass on the first piston. On the second piston I'm going to do a solid block. The third I'm going to do a glass block, and we're going to do this pattern all the way down. Every 3 pistons we are going to have a solid block in the middle. So glass, solid block, glass, whoop, I even tried to jump. Glass, solid block, glass. This is how we are going to power the farm. So you should have 3 blocks on top of the center piston every 3 pistons. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, keeping in mind that we are going to have a gap to work with. Glass, solid block, glass, glass, solid block, glass, glass, solid block, and finally glass. Alright, the next step is to expand our glass up by 1. Just do that all the way, keeping in mind you have a gap there. Keep expanding that all the way across. Grab your observers, and in between the 2 pieces of glass, just crouch and look up right at the corner. And make sure that the observer has a face looking up into the sky and down into your solid block. Do the same thing for all 3 pieces of solid block, with an observer looking up into the sky, down into your solid block. Just like that. Now on this side, we don't have the same convenience of having a platform too close. So fill in your glass just like you would. And we can either come back to this later, but on the first layer you can actually just hop down and do it. So just hop down, aim at the top, and get your observers in place like that. Alright, now that is the outer border of our wall coming into place. The next thing we're going to do is, don't fall off, we're going to start building up our scaffolding a little bit more. So place 2 more pieces of scaffolding. Whenever we build up the wall, go ahead and place scaffolding. On the A side, we are going to extend our glass barrier, wall, whatever you want to call it, all the way across, skipping the gap once again. On the B side of the farm, we're going to do the same thing, except on the wall itself. So start at your scaffolding, and we are just going to extend this all the way across, skipping the gap, but the gap that is on the first layer. And we're going to extend this out by 1. And you'll do the same thing on the other side, skipping the gap, which will be the one closest to the column, and extending it out by 1. So that is going to be your general outline. So now let's start talking about the coral, because the rest of it will kind of be built off of it. Alright, you will notice that we have swapped out our colors, and to be honest, this is probably the 5th or 6th time we've tried to do this recording for the coral placement. We just can't quite seem to find a solution to explaining this. So we decided to go back to the colors because we think that is the easiest. So again, this is a mirror image, but it's exactly the same. So what we're going to do is place down a coral on top of the first coral block on our leaf. You don't have to do this. You don't have to use different color coral. I'm only doing it as a visual aid. And since that's what we started off with, might as well carry it through. Alright, starting off, it is no different than any of our other pickle farms. We are going to start with a square all the way around the base of your column. And you're going to do this for every single column. So we're just building out a square around the base. And some people that I see them building off of the top of this, like this, so they don't have to swim around. I typically go towards the bottom myself because I like to go a little quicker. Just like that. So as soon as Colin finishes up that side, what we will do is we will add a little middle coral off of each square. So on the side of the square, we're going to place a coral in the middle, and I am starting on the B side, and this will make sense, I think, once we get to the A side, but start on the B side, placing down a coral in between each of the 3 coral blocks off of the square. Now you'll notice that if you place it in the middle of the 3 blocks, none of the coral will overlap, because the original farm can't overlap, or it will cause diminishing returns, because you don't want the pickles to be trying to spawn in the same location. So none of these will overlap initially, which is what we want. Oh, don't do that. There we go. Alright, so you'll have your farm that looks like this. And you will have a mirror image of the farm on the second module. Now I'm going to switch to a different color, and starting from the B side going towards the A side, if there is a coral block that is not pink and there is a gap, I'm going to place a coral block. So there is a gap towards the A side, so pink coral block. Here is a gap. Here's a gap. Basically, I don't want any block facing the A side that I can place coral on that is not pink. Oh. Just like that. Now, there's a gap here, but there's a pink block towards the B side, so that is not one that I have to add. There's a gap here, but I've already filled it with a pink block, so I don't add anything else. We think that's the easiest way to explain it. If you have trouble with this, feel free to join our Discord. We'd be happy to help. We have a team of mods that have experience building this farm, and they would be happy to help as well. Alright, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to fill in the gaps, connecting pretty much all the pink coral on this side together, all the way until we can square it off into the center channel. We are going to do the same thing on the outside of our farm, except there is going to be a large row of glass here and a large group right here, and we're just going to fill it up all the way until we reach the outside of this coral block, making sure there is a gap. Oh, I already did that. Making sure that there is a gap between the pistons and the shifting floor. And there we go. We should have one solid surface. And if we go underneath, you'll recall that we already filled in this gap when we used it as a ledge. So everything is looking correct. Let's check in on Colin, and his is looking correct as well. Alright, the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to be grabbing our fence gates. The first thing I'm going to do is add a block right in front of my scaffolding, and I'm on my A side. The pattern is 1, 2, 2, 1. It's just the gaps on the inside. So we do a fence gate, and I'm just going to do them two at once. Once I have my fence gate, I'm going to crouch and place a... I hate building in water. Crouch and place a block into the side of my fence gate. I'm going to build out 2 blocks. Add 2 fence gates. A single block in between 2 fence gates. And if you do that, you'll have to replace it. The fence gates do need to be oriented with the gap. They can't be oriented sideways like that. So 2 fence gates, solid blocks, 2 of them, and then fence gates. So you will have a pattern starting 1 block away from, or I guess you can count this whole thing as part of the pattern, but from the scaffolding, you'll have the scaffolding and glass, which is 2 blocks, 1 block, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. And let's just add that right there. So that is the pattern, and that is the pattern that is going to be used on both sides of the farm. And if you noticed, it is identical whether you start from the left or the right. So we are just going to go ahead and do that all the way across, just to keep all that water inside the farm from spilling over. Alright, as you can see, the water is now contained within our farm, so it's time to switch back to our leaves and grab our water bucket. Now this farm is a really big boy, meaning you're going to have a lot of water to completely waterlog the first layer. Now even on the Duck V3.1, one of the biggest issues that we have to help our users with is dying coral and stuck pickles. And that's because they are missing the most important step. So I know these videos are lengthy, but I would encourage you to watch it in its entirety, because we need to make sure that this is completely waterlogged. What I do is I start off with 2 buckets, place 1 in the corner, 1 in the second corner, which will make the corner block an infinite water source, and then I will work my way out every other block, grabbing from the solid block, grabbing from a solid block, and I'm going to do this all the way across until I get to the other corner. I'm going to do the same thing on the outside, every other block. In survival, you will just refill your bucket on the infinite water sources, making sure that you're getting every other corner. And you'll see that as I did that, the entire center converted because of the flowing water, but there are still flowing water inside the center. So take your water buckets, grab them. You can't see them because of the running water. You're going to place a block between the columns, the 2 in the middle, and between the columns on all 4 sides. That'll just make sure that any of the flowing water that you can't see because of the top is indeed waterlogged. And we can test this actually. I'll just cap it off. The coral will stay alive since it's in a bed of water. No, you don't have to do that, Colin, but you'll see that there's no flowing water if you do it exactly like that. Just wrap yourself all the way around and take 4 final buckets on the outside, in between the column, and then 2 in the middle. And you will have a solid source of water every time. Now switch back to your water buckets, and you are actually going to place water in the corner, because since this is off by itself, where we have those glass block gaps, you do need to place water there and water here. Now our water is going to be flowing out because we have a hole there. We're going to switch to our leaves and we're going to stop up that hole, and we're going to do that on both sides. Make sure that you water log this first. If you place the leaves down before you place a source block of water, that will kill your coral. And if you've removed the water like I did, go ahead and add it back, just like so. Now this next step, it's fairly easy, but it is going to require a lot of leaves. Now what I am going to do is I am going to start at my third farm. I'm going to place a leaf right in front of it, elevating the water up 1 block all the way until it is at the edge of my... Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, we're going to place in glass all the way along the top here and all the way along the top here. That'll make it easier to see the water better. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, adding my leaves all the way down the side. Now, there is no right or wrong way to do this. I actually think that there is a better way. So if you find it, leave a comment letting me know what your method is. All we are doing is we are elevating the water until it is up 1 block from the flowing source block on our coral. And every time you place leaves down, it will extend in all directions. So by placing this in the middle like that, we just eliminate how many leaf blocks we have to place down, because we are going to have to collect every leaf block. Alright, now you will see the water taper off at the edges. We want to extend that out as well, so just place leaf blocks along the edge all the way across. If you go too fast, you could get ahead of the water. If that happens, just break it and re-add them down. Alright. Your water is completely elevated, and we are going to be using these leaves later in the build, so be sure to collect them unless you just have a surplus of leaves in your base. Use shears, that's the easiest way to get it out. Leave the ones in the wall, don't collect those. But we are going to be using these, and as you can see, there are quite a few. So just go ahead and collect them all. Alright. Now the next thing we are going to do is going to seem a little strange, but this is going to be permanent. We're going to place a leaf block right in the middle where our pink block is. And that is another reason that it's kind of nice to switch to the colored blocks. So place a leaf block right in the middle and another one on top. Make sure they're both waterlogged. This will aid in removing the pickles from the farm. As you can see, we already have currents flowing around, and they are doing something funny, and they are creating these little gaps in between where pickles will get stuck. So we have to do a couple other things. We have to grab our pickles first of all. So grab some pickles and place your pickles on top of our coral blocks, like always. Alright, your farm should look like this. Your water is elevated and it is flowing towards the outside, but one thing that we have to get rid of is these little troublesome spots where the arrows are going directly opposite of each other. Pickles will get stuck right here, and that happens in between each of the farms. So we are going to place a water bucket in 4 very specific spots. You're going to find the side of the... So put your back to the exit where the fence gates are. Find the right farm. It doesn't matter which side you're on, it's going to be the same. The right farm, and place a leaf block on the right side. I say it's going to be the same because we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Right side, leaf block, and go ahead and leave it there for now. I want to show you all the locations before we waterlog. The next one is going to be on the left side. You don't need to use a leaf here because you can just place it on the wall. I'm going to place one there to make it easier for you to see. So on the left side, in between the leaf and the pickle and the outermost observer. So a leaf there, and on the left side, same thing, in between the pickle and the leaf row and the outermost observer. So that is your water placement. Ignore the middle leaf. Waterlog all 4 of those leaves. Again, this is not necessary to place a leaf block there because you can simply waterlog it or place a bucket of water on it. But if you tried to do that on the leaf or on the pickle, you'll just waterlog the pickle, so you do need the leaf block. Once you waterlog your leaves, go ahead and take your shears or your silk touch and remove them. That water will remain in place, and we have gotten rid of all of those trouble spots. As you can see now, the arrows that show me the water flow, they are no longer perfectly parallel. They are slightly off angle, so if a pickle comes this way, it will be ejected this way, which will then go here, here, and then out the farm. So let's just actually watch it happen. Just like that. And you can throw a pickle in any part in this farm and it will now flow away. Now the reason we had to place water in this exact spot is whenever you have flowing water going towards the wall, this didn't have a competing water stream. This would just be stuck up against the wall and it would stay there. So we are going to make sure that they don't stay there with that bucket of water. And that is your water manipulation. That is probably the most difficult part, just remembering where everything goes. So I will go ahead and highlight all the areas that you need to place a bucket of water. Now, I think I need to also remind you that this is a mirror image. So on this side of the farm, it's going to be on our left. Another way to remember this is when your back is to the exit, it is going to be on the farm that is closest to you. So you'll place a leaf block there, turn around with your back against the farm closest to you, which is the one on my left, leaf block there, and then on the right side, you would place it in between the pickle and the observer, and then on the right side between the pickle and the observer. And like always, just waterlog it and then remove your leaf blocks. Alright, now it's time to put a roof on our farm. We are going to start, as we always do, adding a piece of scaffolding on our next layer. That'll help remind us what layer we're on. I'm going to extend out my glass block towards the center, and if you wanted to, you can go ahead and add the glass blocks on top of glass blocks, and add those fence gates here in a moment. Now, from your scaffolding, we are going to place down an observer. Now, we are going to hold off on the railing for now. What we are going to do is focus on adding the dispensers on top of the pickles. Now for the side A, the first thing we do, the ones closest to our wall with our scaffolding, we're going to start by building a straight line towards our dispenser. The first one is going to be a observer, followed by a solid block, followed by a note block, followed by an observer, solid block, and then finally our dispenser, which you will hop in your farm, crouch, and make sure you're looking up. So oh goodness gracious. So you're looking up with the output looking at your pickle. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite farm. Both are identical up to this point. Now on the side where our scaffolding is, we are going to look at our observer. That is after our note block. We are going to place an observer into it. We're going to face an observer into the second one, and then we're going to add a solid block. What this does is we have a 2-tick delay after the piston fires. which will then trigger the dispenser with another 2-tick delay, triggering the dispenser once again as it returns. So as the farm shifts back and forth, we will tick it to fire when it is in position A, the piston will push it, and it will fire when it is in position B, and then back to position A. And this will go back and forth, back and forth. We have to do the same thing for the next farm. However, whoops, switch to your observer. However, we're going to get 2 ticks initially from 2 observers right next to where our railing is going to be, followed by a solid block, and then adding our dispenser. So since we are much closer, it's much easier to add our blocks. Unfortunately, because it is so close, we can't use the same little trick that we did before. So what we have to do is we have to go off of the first one, go off of the second one, off of the one that we just placed, and add a solid block. So the first one is 1 tick, 2 tick, fire. The second one is 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, 4 tick, fire. If we look over here, it's 1 tick, 2 tick, fire, 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, 4 tick, fire. So you'll see that the tick is the same. We just had to use 1 extra observer. And the reason we have to do it this way is we are going to build our integrated crafter into the corner. So off of the middle observer, we're going to place another observer, just like that. And Colin is doing the exact same thing, mirror imaged. So you can take a look. Both of these are identical, 2 tick and 4 tick, 2 tick and 4 tick, with an extra observer coming out the side. On the opposite side, we have to do something ever so slightly different. And it truly is ever so slightly. Instead of it being 2 tick and 2 tick, this side is going to be 3 tick and 3 tick, which is a lot harder to do. So we're going to start with the side closest to our scaffolding, and we are going to just run 3 observers directly into our dispenser. I told you it's extremely difficult. The next one needs to be 3 more for a total of 6. Now the way we're going to do that is we're going to go towards our scaffolding wall, placing an observer down, note block, 2 more observers, and a final observer. So if we count them, each observer has a 1 tick delay, so 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 and 6. We're going to do the same thing over here, but we're going to run into the same problem we did on the opposite side. We're going to do 1, 2, note block, 1, whoop, crouch when you do that, 1, solid block, and then a dispenser facing down. Oh goodness, I hate placing blocks in water. There we go. Now to get our 6 delay, we're actually going to have to run the whole length. So we're going to place down an observer into the first one. Make sure it's not looking into the rail. It does need to be looking into the observer. So you can always count these after the fact to make sure that you have it correct. So this side, the B side, is going to be 1, 2, 3 dispenser, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dispenser. And that is our roof laid out. Before we fill it up with glass, we need to add some hoppers. And they are all going to be oriented towards the center where the leaf is. So you can actually jump down on the leaf and place all of these. So hop on your leaf that we are leaving in our farm. Don't take this up. Place a hopper in that dispenser, that one, and that one. Easiest way to remember where they go. The rest of this can be filled in with glass, so we are going to go ahead and do that now. All right. And let's go ahead and add the observers on all of the different sides while Colin is finishing up his. We're going to have observers facing off of the scaffolding in both directions. I already added the 1, but we are going to make sure that we have 4. Well, let's go ahead and do that now. Oh, don't add 2. Let's go ahead and grab our powered rails. This can be powered rails or activator rails. It does not matter. What we are going to do is we are just going to spam them down. It does not matter which side you start on. It does not matter which side you end on. Just add all the rails, making sure that you have rails covering from one observer face to the other. Do this on both sides and on both modules. Now what we can do is we can go to side A and we can flip the trapdoor. And we'll see that all of the farm is going to have a gap on this side. And if we want to return it back into its position, we'll flip side B. And we'll see that the farm is back in place. So everything is working perfectly. Go ahead and add your fence gates. Just add it to the back just like this. It's really easy once you have the first pattern established to add the fence gates moving forward. Alright, let's get started with the integrated crafter. Now each module will have 2 crafters controlling a total of 4 farms, and each crafter will produce 6 bone meal at a time, and each farm will produce 2 bone meal per pulse. So we are going to have to implement some overflow protection. It is extremely simple. The first thing we are going to do is go to the B side of our farm. We are going to place a crafter facing towards you on the note block, just like that, with the face looking at you. On this back corner, this observer, you may have noticed that we probably could have come off the side to save some observer space, but we need this observer for a double pulse. So place an observer facing down into it, and then face another observer with the redstone output facing towards you. You are going to place a target block right next to the crafter. Whenever you place a crafter down, be sure to open it up and deselect everything, disabling all slots except one. That is the recipe for bone meal. Do not forget that. Once we have our crafter and our observers, our crafter is actually ready to double pulse as soon as we turn the farm on. But we are going to, let me grab a hopper. We are going to add some overflow protection. So let's add our hoppers first. Now, unfortunately, there's no way around this that I have figured out. Place a temporary block, 2 blocks in front and 1 block to the side of our crafter, just like that. You're going to place a hopper into the temporary block. And then in front of the crafter, you're going to place the hopper into that first hopper. Remove your temporary block, and this will make sense as we further explain our bone meal system. Now that we have a hopper in front of our crafter, we are going to turn away from our scaffolding wall, looking towards the outside of our farm, hop up and place a comparator looking into the hopper, powering this empty space in front. This empty space in front, we are going to place 2 pieces of redstone dust, and that's why this needs to be a target block, because the target block has properties that will redirect redstone, and once that target block is powered, it will then power the crafter. As our hopper becomes full enough to transmit a signal of redstone signal of 2, it will keep a constant power on the target block, preventing our crafter from crafting any further. We are going to do the same thing on the A side. Now, if you line yourself up with the crafter, you will see that there is a solid block next to our dispenser. We are going to place a crafter on that solid block. Same thing as our note block. Every time the farm pulses, this will receive a 1 pulse, crafting 3 bone meal. But again, we need it to double pulse. So we are going to go to this little bitty observer that is off by itself. Like I said, that would be used for the integrated crafter. Place an observer looking down into it, and then face another observer off the front, and you probably guessed it, we are going to add a target block next to that. Same thing applies. We are going to have our comparator next to our target block with redstone dust wrapping around. This time, we don't need to add 2 hoppers, we just need to add 1, and our temporary block is going to sit on top of our hopper. Place a hopper into your temporary block, and then break your temporary block. Now, depending on what kind of block you use, it will probably end up in your dispenser, so you can grab it out. And that is our crafting system and our overflow protection complete. It is probably the easiest crafting system we have built to date, and it is going to be integrated into each module, meaning that every single layer will have its own crafting system, so you never have to worry about bone meal not making it into your farms. All right, now the next step is going to seem a little odd at first, but to get the bone meal from our crafter through our hoppers into the hoppers connected to our dispensers, we are going to use chest boats. Now, a chest boat has a unique property that has a hitbox much larger than the space needed to fill these 6 blocks. And actually, a chest boat can fill up 9 hoppers in total. The way you can tell what hopper can feed into a chest boat and what hoppers can pull from a chest spot is by turning on hitboxes. If you're playing Java, hold down F3 and press B, and you'll see this little white outline. If even a couple pixels are over the top of the hopper can pull from that chest boat. So you can see that on this chest boat, it can feed this hopper, it can feed this hopper, and this hopper is pointing into this empty space here. Uh-oh, but there's a problem. I just bumped the chest boat and it moved. That is not going to be extremely easy for Bedrock players, because Bedrock players don't have the debugging tool for hitboxes. We will talk about that here in a second, but I also wanted to call out one very important thing. I actually didn't come up with this. I hopped on a call with Fr0zone, the creator of the Fr0zone Pickle Farms, and he said, why not use a chest boat? And that's what we're doing. So a huge shout out and a thank you to Fr0zone for guiding us in this direction, because our solution was to use a lot more hoppers, and the more modules you build, the more hoppers you have, and you will quickly hit that entity cap. Plus, not having as many hoppers means that we can do our overflow protection a lot easier. So let's talk about how we are going to implement this for Bedrock and mobile users. All right, now that we have our crafting system in place and we know what to do with the boats, I'm going to show you what we came up with to always align the boats perfectly. Now in Java, like I said, you can always turn on hitboxes, and the hitboxes will tell you if you are in the correct position or not. But since DonutSMP is shared with mobile and Bedrock users, we are going to add some glass in between our first hoppers. Before we do that, we are going to grab our leaves, and we're going to place leaves on top of each dispenser. If this is the top layer of your farm, you can skip the leaves, you don't need it. But we are going to go ahead and add leaves so we can continue building a second layer. Between each hopper, go ahead and add your glass to build a barrier. We are going to go 3 blocks away from our double hopper. So 1, the leaf counts as 2, and then 3, turn, and you'll be in line with the second farm with the leaves. We'll connect to it and then continue on until we are in line with our first farm and connect it there. You will have a 3x5 little trough that we could put our boats in, and we are going to cut that in 2 right in the middle with glass blocks. You are going to need your wall of choice, whether it's deep slate walls, deep slate brick walls, cobblestone walls, it doesn't matter. You're going to add it opposite of our crafters on top of our hoppers, just like that, until you are left with a 2x2 hole. You are going to need a water bucket, and you're going to need your boats. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to throw in the boats anywhere in that 2x2 gap. You're going to stand on top of the crafter, placing a bucket of water in the corner closest to the crafter. And that will push the boat exactly where it needs to be. And even if you accidentally jump in the boat or interact with it, it will always float back to this corner, which, as you can see from the hitboxes, is still in our 1 block gap for our crafter to feed the boat. It is going to be over the 3rd farm and the 4th farm. We're going to do the same thing for farms 1 and 2, placing a bucket of water in the corner, which will push the boat exactly where it needs to be. So if you are on bedrock, don't worry about the hitboxes. We've got you covered. Add a bucket of water to the leaves. Since we are already up here, this will be used to start the next farm. Alright, now we do need to add a way to get bones to our crafter, so grab some hoppers. We are going to place a hopper line into the back of our crafter all the way until we are even with our rails, and we have intentionally left a gap on the corner of our farm for our bones to travel down. So run your hoppers until they are directly over that gap. We are going to do this on both sides of our farm, adding hoppers into our crafter and running it towards the corner, just like so. This is a mirror image, the module next to it, so you'll just run it in the opposite direction. And your farm is actually fully operational. So we can switch the farm on. To do that, we need a clock. Let's go ahead and build a clock real quick. Grab a repeater. Place a repeater into the solid block with the scaffolding. Grab some redstone dust and run a redstone line all the way 1 block shy of our second farm, and place a repeater into the solid block. If you have removed this solid block, you can continue running the redstone line this way. It's not required, but chances are you have a solid block there. So we'll just build off of that solid block all the way to the opposite side of the farm, where we will add a second repeater on a 1 tick into the solid block on this side. Both sides of the farm will be separated by a 3 tick delay, which is what this farm is designed to run at. The maximum speed a clock can run in DonutSMP is 5 redstone ticks, so we are going to build a 5 redstone tick clock with a repeater on a 2 tick looking at our redstone line, a repeater looking away from our redstone line on a 2 tick, redstone dust, and then a comparator, which will be a 1 tick delay on subtract mode, for a total of 5 ticks. And if you wanted to test it out, we can actually flip the farm on, and we'll see that it is shifting back and forth and calling through some bone meal in there, so it is already producing pickles. So let me go ahead and throw this off. And that is 8 pickle farms built and ready to go. You can stop here and run this farm, build a storage system, and add on later. But I'm sure you want to know how to do that, so we're going to go ahead and add on now. First thing we're going to do is build up our scaffolding. Once again, we can build up a couple layers if you want. It doesn't matter. I will probably just add them as we go, but you'll do this on both sides. We are going to build up our middle wall, placing glass on top of glass. And I'm going to start building this 2 high, just to get ready for our next coral bed. Glass on top of glass, and fence gates on top of fence gates. So we will do this again on all of our exits. Alright, now that we have our border started where our pickles will exit, it's time to build the same thing that we did on the first layer, is our pistons. So let's go ahead and grab our pistons, and before we do that, I'm actually going to place a barrel down on these corner hoppers. I'm going to do this on both sides. I like barrels just because they look better. They're full blocks and they're a little cheaper than a chest, but you can absolutely put a chest here. You can even put a hopper here. But since we are using bones all the way throughout the system, unlike the bone meal, with the Duck V3, the problem that you have with excess storage is the excess storage has to be filled for the bone meal to reach the upper farms. Well, since we are filling this completely with bones and each module has integrated crafters, we don't have to worry about too much storage. So if you wanted to switch to hoppers, you could, but I would recommend a barrel or a chest. Grab your pistons, and from your barrel, we are going to build a row of pistons from the barrel all the way to our scaffolding. There will be 9 across. You will do this on both sides, and you will do this on both modules. Whoop, don't let your pistons face up. Now, just like before, we are going to build out the redstone components of our piston first. So go ahead and grab your glass, and we are going to just copy the same pattern that we had on the first layer. We're going to do glass, solid block, glass, glass, solid block, glass, glass, solid block, and glass. Now I did that from the outside so you can see the pattern is the same as below, but you can do that from inside the farm just as easily, or on top of the pistons by jumping around. So go ahead and complete that pattern on both sides. I'll go ahead and do this from the piston over here. Glass, solid block, glass, and I'm actually going to do all my glass first so I don't have to switch back and forth because I'm not the fastest at doing that. And once you have done that, we are going to build up our glass one more row, just like this. You're going to hop down in your farm. We are going to grab our observers and make sure that the observer is powering the solid block. So hop down in your farm looking up at that glass block and place an observer with the face looking up at the sky or the top of your base, and the redstone output looking down. Whoop, I guess I got to add glass first for or I won't be able to get those observers up there. Alright, your redstone components and your piston is built out. If you're up on top of we can build our scaffolding up one more so we can get to the top easily. And we are going to add a hopper into our barrel, and we are going to add another barrel. The more bone storage, the better. Hopper into the barrel, and then a barrel on top of the hopper. We're going to do this on all four sides. Then we are going to build out the walls even further because we want to contain all of the water. But before we do that, we are going to build out part of the shifting floor platform on the outside walls. This is the side closest to the crafter, opposite of our scaffolding. What we are going to do is we are going to look down to see where our coral is, because we are going to build our shifting floor platform starting at the piston all the way until we get to our coral. If you wanted to count out, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 glass blocks. We're going to skip the coral, add 1, 2, 3, 4 glass blocks, which will be on the outside wall. You'll do the same thing on the opposite side, doing 6 glass blocks, skipping the 2 coral, and building out 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whoop, I missed. 4. Once you have your outside platform built out, we are going to crouch over the side and place another block directly over our comparator. We are going to do this for all 4 comparators, 2 for each module. And then in between the comparators, we are going to place down glass blocks until we have completely encapsulated or isolated the redstone components. After you add these 4 blocks in between the comparators, we are going to add 2 more blocks right in between the redstone. Now the rest of this is blocked off, and you won't have to worry about that redstone getting washed out. If your farm looks like this, you are ready to start on the second layer. The second layer is identical to the first one. We're just jumping around a bunch of other blocks this time. So go ahead and grab your coral, place down your coral on top of your leaves, just like we did on the first layer. And make sure your leaves have been waterlogged or they will die. Build up your coral 1 block, placing water on top, so have your water bucket in hand. Oh, let me swap that out for the right color. And then your farm should look like this. And if we go down to inspect, we'll see that our redstone component is nice and dry. The rest of the coral is the same as before. We are going to build a square all the way around our columns. You'll see that boat shift around, and if you see that, it's fine. We have flowing water. As soon as we build out the coral, it will go right back where it's supposed to. Once you have your square complete, go ahead and finish off the base design that every pickle farm shares, which is a taxi cab distance of 2 from your center coral. One more. If your farm looks like this, you are doing perfect. I am going to switch to the pink coral, just like we did on the first layer, so I can keep track of where I am adding it. And again, on the B side of the farm, wherever there is coral, we are going to add a pink coral towards the A side. So wherever there is coral that you can add a block to, just add an additional block towards the A side. We are going to fill in the gaps in between the coral with glass. Be sure that we leave a gap on the B side of the farm. Alright, your floor should look like this. This is the shifting floor for the second layer. Let's go ahead and start building up the walls. Go ahead and grab your fence gates and your glass. We're just going to build up glass on top of glass, fence gates on top of fence gates until we are too high. And we're going to do this all the way around. Glass on top of glass, fence gates on top of fence gates. Alright, now we need to go ahead and grab our leaves and our water buckets. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to build up the A side wall. So go ahead and build this too high, skipping the coral. We're going to do the same thing on the B side, but up against the wall itself. Even though there is no coral there now, we are going to skip it because we do have to add leaves. We are going to go ahead and add the leaf on the side that is the B side. Be sure to waterlog it whenever you place a leaf. It needs to be waterlogged. We've had a lot of tickets in our Discord asking why the coral is dead, and it's because they forgot to waterlog the leaves. Now, before I add the leaves on this empty space, I'm going to start my infinite water source on my first layer of coral. So go ahead and just place it down, and again, pull from your infinite water source, and then skip every other block, which will start converting it, grabbing water, and just work your way all the way around until the entire floor is waterlogged. Now, working your way around, the water is no longer flowing. Again, if we remove the water off of the top, it should be a completely infinite water source. I always add the water in between the farms as a precaution if I don't want to remove the water, because if you have a single block that is not a solid water source on the outside, it'll appear as if it is solid on the inside, so it's always best just to add the water in the middle. Or you could use the Redstone texture pack that I'm using that shows water flow, and we will have that uploaded into our Discord because I know that is a really common request, so we will go ahead and take care of that. Alright, now on the outside, another method that you can use to elevate your farm, or the water in your farm, is to go on the outside of your coral and just add a leaf all the way across. The first one we went on the inside. This time we're going to go on the outside. There is no difference. There is no right or wrong way to do this. As long as all of your water blocks are elevated up one level, that's all we're looking for. I still haven't found the best way to do it. So again, if you have an idea on what the best method is, let me know. When I do the outside method, I usually kind of make this little H pattern. And that's already elevated. Just add water all the way until all of the water in the farm is elevated up one level. If it looks like this, you need to keep going. Alright. All my water is elevated up one, so get your shears, your silk touch tool, or if you have a surplus of leaves, just break it, but remove all the leaves from your farm. And I actually could have left that one, because once again we are going to add a leaf on that center coral and a leaf on top of that. Now that this is an infinite water source, we can use our empty bucket that you probably have in your hand. Grab a water bucket full of water. Make sure that you have water above this coral and add a leaf here, and go ahead and cap it off with glass. And that is your second layer of water complete. Now let's do the water manipulation. To do that, we need to add our pickles. Grab your pickle and place it on the 4 coral blocks that are sticking up. And this is the same pattern as before. We are going to go to the coral block that is closest to you and place a leaf on the side of the pickle that is closer to the wall. I'm going to do this on both sides. If your farm is mirror imaged, you will back up to the wall. The coral block that is closest to you, you will go towards the wall that is closest to it. So this would be on my left. And it looks like Colin missed some water manipulation, so I'm just going to place that down and elevate that. That tells me he doesn't have his redstone pack on, Goober. Alright, now we are going to waterlog all 3 of your leaves. 1, 2, 3. Leave that middle leaf. We are not going to break it, but we are going to remove the outermost leaves. Now I had you put leaves on the wall last time, but this time I'm just going to show you that it's not required. So you are going to go to the side of the farm with your back to the exit where the coral block is furthest away from you. And in between the row with the pickle and the leaf and the observer, we're going to place a water bucket on the top block of your wall. We are going to do that on both sides. So back to the wall, the coral block that is further away, the row in between our observer and our pickle, placing water on that second block. And that will be a mirror image on the other side. The coral block furthest away, in between. And do that on both sides. And our water manipulation is done. Now, one thing that you may notice when looking at your water with the texture pack on is you will see that there are some arrows that are facing kind of towards the corner of some blocks. And you'll see that in the middle as well. Now this farm is, so these fence gates are not actually necessary for this layer, but we wanted this farm to be joinable. So if you add additional modules on to the outside, which we will do another video on, you can share this wall, just like we are sharing this center wall. So if you see that in your redstone pack, you can actually remove the walls where the water is not flowing to, but if you wanted to expand it, you'll see that the opposite end, that is where the pickles flow, and that's why we add so many unique exits. All right, let's go ahead and jump to the roof. We are going to once again extend our scaffolding one row up, and we're going to place an observer down into the scaffolding on both sides. And just like before, we are going to start on the A side. So line yourself up with your second farm, add a observer, solid block, note block, observer, and then solid block. And again, that is 2 ticks. We are going to go off of the second observer, 1, rotate towards where our dispenser is going to be, 1, and then a solid block. Grab your dispenser, jump down into your farm, look up, and make sure the dispenser is face down, where when it dispenses, it hits the pickle. Make sure this is not a dropper. We also see that a lot. Alright, the same thing for the first farm, except we are going to place both observers down first. So that is our 2 ticks. Solid block. We are going to add our 4 ticks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, solid block. Jump down in your farm, add your dispenser facing down. And for our crafting system, off of this middle observer, we're going to place an observer facing the redstone output, facing away, looking into that middle observer. That is the clock for our 2 dispensers on the A side. It will be a mirror image for the ones on the opposite side of the farm. So just know that when you are adding your second set of ticks to your dispenser on the second farm, it needs to be facing towards your scaffolding. And for your crafter, it needs to be facing away from your scaffolding. If this is reversed, the rest of the build will not work. So make sure that you have this pattern always facing the scaffolding, regardless of which side you put it on. Alright, moving to the B side. We are going to find our farm once again. We'll start on farm number 4. And we will add 3 ticks, so 3 observers. Off of that middle observer, facing your scaffolding. Add an observer with a note block, followed by 2 observers, and then turning for your final tick. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, 5, and 6. The note block does not count as a tick. Hop down, add your dispenser, facing down into your pickle, and we'll move on to the third farm. Placing your observer in line with your pickle. 1, 2, note block, observer, solid block. I'll go ahead and put my dispenser in now since I'm over here. Crouch, looking up. And the same as layer 1, an observer going off of the first one, not looking at what will be the rails, but off of the first observer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and finish it off with a solid block. Your farm should look like this if you are following along with us. Alright, we can go ahead and add our roof. So same thing as before, we're going to add the hoppers into the dispenser. So stand on your leaf blocks and just add a hopper into the dispenser facing you. Just like that. Fill in the rest of it with glass all the way. Alright, go ahead and build up your outside wall as well. We are going to continue building up from here. So if you are stopping, if this is your top layer, you only need to have the fence gates and the outer wall to the top of your water, but we are going to continue building. So I'm going to go ahead and start building this up now. Alright, we have built up the outer wall and the inner wall. Let's go ahead and add our rails next. Again, these can be powered rails or activator rails. Go ahead and add them all the way until you have reached the other side with an observer. You will do this on both sides. Again, it doesn't matter where your farm is in the moment, because we can always go back, turn it on, and make sure that everything is shifted appropriately. Alright, the farm is running, as you can see. We are shifting both floors. We are actually making pickles again, so let me turn that off. And let's add our crafting system. So our next 8 farms, are operational. So the same thing as before, we are going to start with the crafters, placing them on the solid block on the A side, and on the note block on the B side. Make sure you set your crafter to craft bone meal by disabling all but 1 slots. Same thing as before, we are going to place a temporary block to place down a hopper into on the B side, just like that. Remove your temporary block. Add a temporary block for the second hopper on the A side, and removing that temporary block, and again remove it out of the dispenser if you need to. Once we have our crafter and our hoppers, we're going to go ahead and add the double pulsing system. So grab your observers again on the corner of the B side, face one up, face one towards you with a target block. And then on the special observer that we have sticking out the side, face one up, face one towards you, and then add your target block. Add your comparator redstone dust and comparator redstone dust, just like that. If you recall from the first layer, we are going to use boats with chests in it, which you could throw on now, but we're going to do the same thing as before. We are going to add glass all the way along, unless you plan on adding another layer, which we are. So we are going to add some leaf blocks on top of all of our dispensers, which marks the center point of the farm. And then I will add glass and make my chest boat border. Be sure to split your barrier in 2 with blocks in the middle. And now you can throw in your chest boats. Oh, nope, we have to add the walls. So let's go ahead and add our deep slate brick walls real quick. Just like that. Now we can throw in our boats. There we go. Grab a water bucket. Be sure to remember to water up your leaves so you don't kill your coral later on. And then add the water into the glass blocks so that our boats will float into the correct position. Now, another thing to note, you'll see that the boats are shifting in different directions depending on how you place them down. The image of the boat does not match up with the hitbox. The hitbox will always be square with the map. So if you're worried about the orientation of the boat, don't worry about it. The hitbox will always be in the correct position. Alright, let's add some hoppers to get our bones in there. So we are going to add hoppers all the way until we are on the side with our rails. This time, however, we are going to make sure that we have a hopper facing down into our barrel, just like that, and then we're going to run hoppers along top of it. So you'll make sure that your hopper below the turn is facing down, so as we throw bones into our system, they will flow down, filling up the bottom layers, and then when they reach the second layer, they will turn, fill up the second layer, and then move up to the third, the fourth, and however many farms you have. We will do this on all 4 sides. Hopper line out towards the rails, turning towards the corner of our farm. Just like that. Do this on all 4 sides. And that is your second farm complete. Again, make sure that you have your crafter set to the recipe for bone meal because it is a little challenging. You can do it. Let me just come down here. You can reach the crafters by going inside of the farm just fine, but it's a lot easier to remember it off the bat when you're doing it right away. Alright, that's layer 2 complete. The third and the fourth layer are identical. This video is going to be long enough, so we are not going to show it. I know we'll get several comments asking why we didn't show the third and the fourth layer. But again, the second layer is you just rinse and repeat. Do the same thing on the third layer, on the fourth layer, on the fifth layer. So we are going to go ahead and skip forward to the fourth layer for now. Alright, we went ahead and added a third and a fourth layer. Again, this is entirely up to you on how many layers you want to go, but if you built it exactly like we have here, this is going to be 32 farms, which is going to be 4 modules on both sides of our scaffolding. This can be continuously expanded up. We will give you the dimensions here in a second on how tall it is, but before we do, we are going to add just a double chest on the side of our hoppers as a central point to add bones to. We are not going to cover a bone storage system at the top right now in this video, and we are not going to cover the water stream. You can refer back to several of our videos, but you do have some flexibility. Since we have fence gates separating the exits, you can place water directly underneath the middle and flow it in both directions, loop it around. It's entirely up to you, but I would recommend getting this into a storage system as fast as possible so you don't run into entity limits. The other thing that I want to call out is in our Discord we are going to have 3 separate schematics for this farm. We are going to have the lower layer, which includes the clock and the first 2 modules. We are going to have an interstitial layer, or a layer that can be added indefinitely on top, one after the other, and then we are going to have a schematic for the full 32 farm Duck V4. And that is the build complete, so we are going to load some bones in it and watch it produce some pickles. Once again, thank you for watching. We hope this has been an anticipated video, and we hope that you enjoyed it. We just built 32 pickle farms, and the space is 23 long, 17 wide, and from top to bottom, from chest to the clock, it's only 23 blocks as well. So this is an extremely compact pickle farm, and it is the fastest, smallest, cheapest available on DonutSMP. We know that pickle prices have gone down, but hopefully the price of bones will go down as well too. This farm will still be super profitable in the long run. I am CD3 Daddy.
And I'm C3DG Minecraft.
And thank you for watching another video. Let's go ahead and flip this thing on as we say goodbye.